What is going on, Diablo 2 fans? Dobrunsky here, and I'm back with another Diablo 2 video, except today is going to be kicking off a new series on my channel that is doing Ubers with non-Smiter characters. So yes, the Smiter is the best, budget gear or top tier gear, hands down Smiter is the single best character for farming Ubers, but I want to run through a couple different builds like the Kixin, Werebear Druid, Fury Druid, Bear Sorceress, just to kind of show you guys some other characters that are pretty good at farming Ubers and kind of go through the gear, the thought process behind not using Smite and Fanaticism, because there is other ways to farm Ubers. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video. I will have timestamps in the description below, so if you guys want to bounce back and forth between the attributes, the gear, or the gameplay, they're there for you guys to use, so please take advantage of them. And a quick reminder, I often theorycraft these builds live on stream before I make these videos. I stream twice a week on Twitch. Link is of course in the description below, twitch.com/Dobrunsky125. So if you guys could give me a follow there, I'd really appreciate it. Other than that, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Let's jump in.
Looking for bail.
So the first thing that I want to do before we jump into the attributes and the gear is talk about the three major pros and the three major cons for using a Werebear for farming Ubers. Again, this is just my opinion. If you guys think I missed anything, let me know in the comment section below. The first major pro is that the Werebear has tons of health, especially with shapeshifted form, CTA, and then Oak Sage if you choose to use that spirit. It's really easy to have like 4,000 or 5,000 health. I have 4,000 health with purposely pulling points out of Vitality and then putting them into Dexterity, so I have a higher attack rating. More on that kind of when we go into the gameplay, but attack rating is super important for any non-Smiter character because you don't have 100% chance guaranteed to hit like you do with Smite. The second big advantage is that you have tons of fire damage, so if you run into physical immune, swarms, if you're doing Uber Duriel, or anything that doesn't have a high fire resistance, you basically literally one-shot. I mean, every single attack is going to be between like 10 to 12k fire damage depending on the gear they use, so it is a very high damage output of fire specifically. And the third major pro for the Werebear doing Ubers is you have a lot of crowd control. So you have one, your meat shield with Summon Grizzly, and two, you have shockwave in shapeshifted form. So if you get overwhelmed or surrounded, a couple shockwaves, everything is going to be stunned, and it gives you a chance to kind of kill the monsters that are surrounding you and kind of get your footing again. So it's just a very safe build. If you get in trouble, you're not going to be just stuck in physical immune swarms, you know, not being able to move like you would with a budget Smiter. That just doesn't really happen when you're doing Ubers with the Werebear. But there's always two sides to a coin. So what are the three major cons in my eyes for running a Fireclaw Werebear Druid for doing Ubers? Well, the first is there's absolutely no teleporting, and buffing yourself up with CTA is a little bit annoying. And that is because you cannot teleport in shapeshifted form, and you also cannot cast battle command or battle orders while you're in Werebear form. So you need to transform back to Druid, buff yourself, and then shapeshift back into Werebear form. And it just is a little bit tedious when you do it numerous times, which you guys will kind of see in the gameplay later on. The second major con is fire damage. Now I know what you're thinking. You said fire damage was a pro. Well, it is against anything that doesn't have a very high fire resistance or is fire immune, but there is a couple monsters that have fire immunity, which can be broken, and then also Uber Diablo and Uber Baal have very high fire res. So you're going to see that we plow through Uber Duriel, but we slow down a little bit on Uber Diablo, so the massive amount of fire damage and heavily relying on it is a pro, and it's also a con at the same time. And the third and final overall con for this build in my eyes is the total lack of raw physical damage. Now you can change your maximum damage output depending on the weapon that you use and the charms that you're using, but you really want to kind of stick to, in my opinion, for Ubers with a Grizz Caddy or a Phase Blade, because when you start to kind of go into Grief or Ribcracker, you're going to attack very slow. So yes, those two weapon options do give you a little bit more raw physical damage, but I think your attack rate really suffers, and it's definitely not the best route because you want to attack as fast as possible, proc life tap, and then keep replenishing your life against these very difficult Uber monsters. So you can go the route of trying to maximize your raw damage using like a Grizz Caddy, max damage, AR, life, charms, or you can rely entirely on Crushing Blow and a fast attack rate and your fire damage using a Phase Blade, which is actually the route that I'm going to go when I go over the gear. Now I have tested both of these setups, the Grizz Caddy, max damage, AR, life, GCs, versus the Phase Blade with shapeshifting skillers, and I do think the Phase Blade comes out on top. But if you guys think differently, just let me know in the comment section below. That's all of the key kind of positives and negatives about this build for farming Ubers specifically that I wanted to cover. So now we'll dive into the attributes, the skill tree, and the gear. As far as the attributes go for this setup, it is a modified Max Vita build So I have enough strength to equip my gear. Now you're going to think 180 is a little bit high, but there's a little bit of wiggle room there. So based on the body armor or the belt that I'm switching around, I just want to make sure that I always have 156 to equip Spirit and a Monarch Shield, because T-Gods and Chains of Honor both have plus strength on them. So I don't want to be in the middle of Ubers and kind of not have all of my gear equipped because I was swapping gear pieces. So the little bit of extra additional strength kind of avoids that. I have nothing in energy. I have enough points in vitality when I'm shapeshifted in Werebear form and CTA buff that I have 4,000 health. And then everything else that's extra is put into dexterity, and that is because having a very high attack rating is super important for any non-smiter character doing Ubers, because having something like 28, 29, 30,000 attack rating is still only like an 80 to 85% chance of hitting depending on your character level. It is not the crazy, easy getting that 95% chance to hit with Smite. It's just way different on any non-smiter character. I have capped resistances with this setup, and I actually, with Fade proc, before I do Uber Mephisto, I have 305% lightning res, which gives me exactly 80 lightning res with T-Gods for his Conviction aura, so that is really important as well. That's overstacked with small charms, which you'll see when I go over the gear. I'm only going to briefly touch on the skill tree because I did just recently release a Fireclaw Werebear Druid build video. I got it linked in the description below, so for a more thorough kind of explanation of the skill choice and why, refer to that video, because I use the exact same skill tree for this Uber setup. But I have one hard point into every single one of these that you see here. I just use Summon Grizzlies and Meat Shield, and then I have Oak Sage and Heart of the Wolverine as two different options. So if you want a little bit more health, you can go with Oak Sage, or if you want more attack rating, which that's the route I'm going to go for this Uber example, you can go Heart of the Wolverine. Now for shapeshifting, I have one hard point into Werewolf, one into Lycanthropy, and then just one into Werebear, Maul to unlock Shockwave, one into Feral Rage, and then a completely maxed Fireclaw, and then I put all of my remaining skill points after that into Fireclaw's synergies, so that's in the Elemental skill tree. So Firestorm, Molten Boulder, Fissure, and Volcano. The gear for this character, because I'm solely focused on farming torches and doing Ubers, it's going to be a little bit different than sort of the standard PVM setup, but it's really just centered around proccing Life Tap and maximizing my fire damage and attack rating as much as I absolutely possibly can. So there is some pre-buff gear, which I will cover, but starting off with the main gear. On the main hand, my attacking weapon is a 4 shield phase blade with 2 IS resistance jewels in it. So a 15 IS 26 cold res jewel and a 15 IS 26 lightning res jewel. So this is really nice for Uber Mephisto, a little bit extra resistance. For the body armor, I'm using Chains of Honor. This is a really good overall armor for doing Ubers with the Werebear because the plus skills helps boost my damage and attack rating and life because I'm boosting Lycanthropy, Werebear, Fireclaw, which gives you more attack rating with every successive skill. And then we get a little bit of DR and resistance as well because that's really important for Uber Mephisto. Now the jewelry is kind of unique here. I have dual angelics, so that's for the massive attack rating bonus and adds additional dexterity and plus life. And then I have a Ravenfrost for, again, more attack rating and cannot be frozen. And for the shield, I'm using Spirit. Spirit is honestly a very good shield. I mean, it's #1 caster shield, but it's actually really good for a Fireclaw Druid because the $2 skill is more damage. The FHR helps me reach specific FHR breakpoints, and then it does have Vitality, 3 resistances, doesn't have Fire, but it's actually really good overall setup, and it's also a low chance to block because you don't want a high block rate. With the Werebear, block rate is, or the block animation, excuse me, is very annoying, so you don't want that. And then the boots and gloves, I went with Dracul's for the Life Tap proc and Open Wounds, and then Goblin Toes because it is the highest amount of Crushing Blow. Gore Riders, you don't really, I don't think that they're good in this scenario because it's just less Crushing Blow and more Open Wounds, but because of the helmet, I'm using Cerebus Bite with an rune, which already has 33% chance to cast Open Wounds. So I have all kinds of Open Wound procs, so it just doesn't make sense to use, in my opinion, Gore Riders. So I just went with using Goblin Toes. And then the reason I went with Cerebus Bite is because of the massive 110% bonus to attack rating, 4 to shapeshifting skills, and then I put an rune in it for some extra res. But this is just an awesome Uber-specific helmet, in my opinion. And then on the offhand, I have CTA and Spirit just to buff the battle orders and battle command skill level. The inventory is very similar to the Fireclaw Druid build that I linked in the description below. I have different assorted shapeshifting skillers here. Some have plus life. The difference between max damage AR and life charms and shapeshifting is a little bit more fire damage, and max damage AR life charms is going to be more raw physical damage and slightly more attack rating. I think it depends on the weapon that you choose, what's the best charm. So I think if you're using a phase blade, Shapeshifting Skillers makes more sense because it has very low raw physical damage. But if you're maybe going the route of a Grizz Caddy and you want to kind of buff the overall total melee damage output, it might make sense in that scenario to use max damage AR life charms. But since I'm using the phase blade, I think that these are a better complement. And then as far as these small charms go, they're just different assorted fire and lightning, plus life, plus strength, plus dexterity. Small charms, just want to make sure that my resistances are in good shape for Uber Mephisto under his Conviction Aura. And then all the plus life is boostable by battle orders, so I do have a very high overall health pool, despite pulling a lot of points out of Vitality to invest into dexterity to make sure I have a really high attack rating. There are a few gear swap out pieces that I also wanted to cover as well. Kind of just different pre-buffs and stuff for doing Ubers specifically. So I have a Demon Limb, which I use for the enchant charge for a lot of additional plus attack rating. I have Treachery for the Fade proc, and then I am going to be carrying a Duress in my cube, which I will temporarily throw on to do Uber Diablo and Uber Bale, just to give me a little bit higher chance of Crushing Blow. And then I also have T-Gods, which is again a quick swap out for doing Uber Mephisto because it gives you Lightning Absorb and an additional maximum lightning resistance. So it's just a really nice kind of complement for Uber Meph. That's all of the different pre-buff gear. And like I said, I have experimented with different weapons like Grizz Caddy, which is a little bit extra raw damage. But we did a lot of testing on stream, and I still think that the Phase Blade comes out on top. And then for the Mercenary, I'm just using the standard kind of go-to Fortitude and Duriel's Visage Infinity setup. Infinity is really important because that Conviction Aura, not only does it boost our fire damage, but it does kind of make sure that I have a really good chance of actually hitting Ubers. So you want to try and keep the Mercenary alive the best that you can based on kind of different Uber positioning. It's very difficult to keep him alive against Uber Mephisto and Lilith, which we'll try to in this video, but the Infinity does serve a purpose outside of boosting fire damage. It is again lowering their defense, so we have a higher chance of hitting Ubers in Werebear form. So I have already gone ahead and opened all three portals. I'm going to do Lilith last, we'll do Duriel first, Forgotten Sands, and then Izual is just in the middle there, we'll do him second. I just want to do a little bit of a pre-buff here with Enchant, because this is a huge bonus to attack rating, and it lasts a really long time too. You should, in theory, be able to do a full Ubers run on one Enchant. You might have to rebuff, but it's not the end of the world. We'll get our Bear, our Summon, and then a Battle Command and Battle Orders. Now, when I'm in Shapeshifting form, I will use Shockwave as kind of my crowd control, and I do have... I was on the wrong hand side there, so I shapeshifted on my CTA side, but you can kind of see with just the massive attack rating there, 28,000 attack rating, which is actually only like an 80% chance to hit, I think. But we'll use Shockwave as kind of our crowd control. Now, since we're running and we're not teleporting, there's a good chance that we're probably going to lose definitely the Bear and the Spirit, and hopefully not the Mercenary, but we kind of just got to take our time. These are racks, they're fire immune. So just run by them, use Shockwave, and then hopefully we can kind of lure Duriel. It's one of the reasons why I love just doing any teleporting build, is because I can skip all this stuff, reposition the Mercenary. See, we already lost the Spirit, which it's not really the end of the world. We might recast him, but this is that one pro that I talked about. Shockwave is just really good for crowd control. Okay. Summon right away. I'm gonna try and take out those stitches and then have Duriel focus on me. We haven't had life tap proc yet. Let's see if we can get it to proc. Nope. We didn't even get life tap to proc, but that's okay. Always recycle to your Druid form again and then recast your summons and CTA buff before you kind of take on the next mini Uber, because you don't want to be kind of like in the middle of a battle and then your CTA run out, because you will drop from like 4,000 to like 2,500 health, because I specifically intentionally took points out of Vitality for Dexterity. So the Demon Knights are fire immune, cannot do anything to them. The Pit Lords can't either, that's why we're just using the Shockwave, stun and get by. Tricksters are fire immune, but if stupid Mercenary AI comes and procs Infinity, we do break their immunity. So there is some fire immunes we can deal with, some we can't. We'll just kind of take our time, and really, like, the lack of physical damage compared to fire damage is really kind of apparent with this build. Okay, there's Izual. So just, Izual will be absolutely crushed. Like, just, I mean, he's down before life tap procced. Like, no problem whatsoever. So just doing the little annoying pre-buff. Now there's not really any kind of major fire immune you have to worry about in here. We do have crowd control. It's just the biggest thing is these Vile Witches, curses, amp damage. You don't want to be amped and taking on Lilith. Actually, you don't really want to be amped taking damage from these guys either, but that's just use Shockwave for crowd control. I'll get through it. Get a couple of rejuves to replenish too. That's the reason why I brought lost the spirit again. That's the reason why I brought TP scrolls along, is because if I need to go back, cancel out a curse, like right when I find Lilith, it's definitely the smart thing to do. Taking on Lilith with amp damage, kind of that like hesitation between life tap procking is not going to be very good. Just using Shockwave, carrying through, clearing these one by one. Dude, that's just a lot of... super annoying. Usually I like to just teleport by this stuff, which is not an option when you're in Werebear form.
Good afternoon.
Oh, there's Lilith. Oh, Lilith. Lilith, amp damage. Lost the Mercenary. Oh no, Lilith.
Salutations.
Okay. Let's get our Mercenary again. We'll do our little pre-buff. This time we're gonna go to Frigid Highland, 'cause she is literally right there. As soon as I enter this, she's gonna be right there. Rock life tap. There we go, we got life tap. She's still pretty tough though. Like, I was definitely taking a lot of damage there. Now I'm gonna use Treachery for pre-buff for fades. So we'll go to the River of Flame, we'll do that there. Okay, that was good. Now I'm going to use Chains of Honor for Uber Mephisto, and then we're going to switch to using Duress for a little bit higher chance of Crushing Blow. I'm just going to put that in my cube. We should have everything that we need. We still have our enchant buff. Just going to try and take our time here. If we can, try and separate them one by one very slowly. Mephisto. I just one-shotted. One-shotted the poor spirit. Oh no, there's Diablo 2. Okay. So if we kind of run Diablo back here and just slowly take our time. Inch forward. There we go. I'm just going to switch to Duress quickly for a little bit higher chance of Crushing Blow. It's basically 40% chance instead of... Oh, our Mercenary's right on the edge of those Pistol Lightning Bolts, so that's okay. Just a little bit higher chance of proccing that Crushing Blow to get Diablo down a little bit quicker. And we'll switch back to Chains of Honor for Mephisto. Don't die, Gulzar. Used all my full rejuves on you, Galzar! Okay. Chains of Honor switch. So this is going to be interesting. I have no life tap. Sorry, no full rejuve, so let's just rely on life tap here. Oh, this is going to be tight. Yeah, I lost the Mercenary too. Okay, come on, Werebear. I'm actually surprised. So we're kind of falling apart here at the end, running out of full rejuves, but we're still okay. Now there is obviously no minions. This is not BattleNet. It'll be a little bit more challenging at BNet, but I think that went down pretty quickly. We'll switch to Duress. Another 15 and 25. Take on Bale. This was like a decently quick, I mean, not like Smiter standards, but getting him down okay. Okay, here's just a final little bit. There we go. So you can kind of see that last little sliver of health kind of took a while because don't have a lot of physical damage, but now we'll check the final torch here, the stats. We're doing this little Werebear run for first edition of non-Smiter Ubers.
Good day.
15, 19 Paladin, that's not too bad. Well guys, there you have it. That wraps up the first episode of the non-Smiter Uber series that I want to start. Obviously, the Werebear is not kind of quite to the extent of a Smiter. I mean, slower kills were not quite as tanky. Life tap proc is not as reliable as using Exile, but I still think it was kind of a fun, different build. You can see that stacking attack rating is really important compared to always having that guaranteed chance to hit with Smite. But overall, guys, I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below what character you want to see next for this video series. And as always, if you could throw a like on this video, share it, and even consider subscribing if you're new to my channel. I post new weekly content on YouTube, and I stream twice a week on Twitch, so a follow on Twitch and a sub on YouTube would be awesome. Other than that, guys, hope you have a fan-frickin-tastic day, and I'll catch you on my next video or live stream. Peace out.